Are you studying for the GED Test Language Arts section and need to brush up on your grammar? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know to ace the GED Language Arts section. Oh, and I'm also going to tell you why I was holding that balloon. You'll have to wait and see. Hi, this is Parker from DeskPrepChampions.com, and we're going to get started right off the bat with some nouns. What is a noun? A noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. Let's look at an example. In this photo, there are several different nouns. This woman, Jill, is a person. The hat is a thing. The beach where the photo was taken is a place. Now suppose she's thinking about peace. Peace is an idea. See all the nouns here? Now let's distinguish between proper and common nouns. Proper noun names a specific person, place, thing, or idea. A common noun names a non-specific person, place, thing, or idea. A quick way to tell the difference between a proper noun and a common noun is to look at the capitalization of the first letter of the word. For example, a proper noun is always going to be capitalized, but a common noun is not typically capitalized unless it's the first word in a new sentence or it's part of a title. Take this example. Yesterday, Jill went to the beach. Jill is a specific person, so we capitalize her name. However, if we say yesterday the woman went to the beach, the word woman is not capitalized. We're talking about a person here, but it's not a specific person, so woman is a common noun. Next, let's talk about pronouns. Can you remember a time in school when you had a substitute teacher? Well, you can think of pronouns as substitute nouns because they can substitute and replace nouns. And whenever a pronoun replaces a noun, we call that noun the antecedent. In the sentence, Jill went to the beach. She had a great time. Which word is the antecedent and which is the pronoun? Here, she is the pronoun because she is replacing Jill. Since Jill was replaced, Jill is the antecedent. In that example, we saw a subject pronoun, which replaced the subject of the sentence. For your test, you must be familiar with not just subject pronouns, but also object pronouns and possessive pronouns. I've listed some common examples on the screen to get you started, and we'll look at more examples of these in future videos. One crucial thing to understand about pronouns is that pronouns and antecedents must always agree. Time for another example. Jill's friend came to visit. They bought Jill's lunch. What's wrong with this sentence? To see the problem, let's think about who's buying Jill's lunch. The first sentence tells us that it's her friend that's buying her lunch. Since we're talking about just one person, we don't want to use the word they here. The correct version would be Jill's friend came to visit. She bought Jill's lunch. The key here is that if the antecedent is singular, the pronoun must also be singular. And if the antecedent is plural, the pronoun must also be plural. Now, just a minute or two ago, I told you that I was going to do something with this balloon in the video. Well, we're now at that part. Time to talk about verbs. But first, what is a verb? A verb is a word that describes an action, occurrence, or state of being. On your test, you're going to have to know about both regular and irregular verbs. The following section is going to start us off by talking about regular verbs. Each verb has a base form, also known as a root form, and then four other forms: past, present, present participle, and past participle. Let's look at an example using the word deflate. Present form is deflate, with I, they, we, or you. For he, she, or it, we add an S and it becomes deflates. Present participle is deflating, which we get by adding ing to the base form. The past form is deflated, which we get by adding ed. Now, if the verb had ended with an e like the verb hope, we would have just added a d instead. Lastly, for the past participle, we just add ed to get deflated. However, again, if the verb ended with an e, we would have just added a d. So by now you might be wondering, what's the point of all these verb forms? Well, the point is that we can use them to make verb tenses. You can think of verb tenses as telling us the time when something will happen. To demonstrate the different verb tenses, I'm going to deflate a balloon, but no, not a hot air balloon. Let's start with the future tense. The future tense is used for an action that hasn't occurred yet. To make the future tense, we put the word will in front of the base form, which gives us will deflate. For example, I will deflate the balloon. Future perfect tense shows us that an action will happen by a specific future time. We put the words will have in front of the past tense form of the base verb, which gives us will have deflated. For example, Parker will have deflated the balloon by the end of this video. For the present tense, we would say deflate or deflates. For example, Parker deflates the balloon, or I deflate the balloon. The present progressive tense is used to show that an action is in progress. For the present progressive tense, we add ing to the present tense and put is in front of it, which gives us is deflating. For example, Parker is deflating the balloon right now. There's also the present perfect tense, which is used for an action that started in the past and continues in the present. For this, we'd say has deflated. For example, Parker has deflated the balloon during this video. After the balloon has been deflated, we'd use the past tense form. For example, Parker deflated the balloon. Finally, to show that I deflated the balloon before a specific time in the past, we'd use the past perfect tense by putting the word had in front of deflated, which would give us had deflated. For example, Parker had deflated the balloon earlier. So by now you might be wondering, how in the world are you going to keep all of these tenses straight? Well, to start off with, I recommend at least knowing the past, present, and future tenses. From there, the others will come naturally with time. After that, the best advice that I can give you is that when you're given a passage to read, look at the tenses of the other verbs in that passage. Verbs in the same passage or paragraph will generally be in the same tense. Okay, so that's enough of regular verbs. Let's now talk about irregular verbs. And so unfortunately for irregular verbs, there isn't one single set pattern to follow like there is with regular verbs. You'll see that I've included a list of irregular verbs to get you started. And down below in the description, I'll link to where you can get a big list of irregular verbs. You don't have to memorize this whole list, but it's going to be helpful to be familiar with them. Now let's move on to one of the most important topics, subject-verb agreement. Remember how we said that verbs can describe a state of being? Well, here are some examples of what are called being verbs. You definitely want to keep these in mind as we proceed. So the basic concept of subject-verb agreement is that a singular subject takes a singular verb, and a plural subject takes a plural verb. Got that? Great, let's keep you on your toes here with a little pop quiz. Fill in the blanks. A singular subject takes what kind of verb? And a plural subject takes what kind of verb? Well, hopefully you remember from just a minute ago that a singular subject takes a singular verb and a plural subject takes a plural verb. Now that we've covered the basic idea, there are a few other key points you should know. Please keep in mind that these are just general rules, and while they'll hold true most of the time on your test, you must always take the context of the sentence into consideration and use your critical thinking skills. First key rule here is that the subject comes before the word of, not after. This rule generally holds not just for of, but also the words on, from, with, in, and for. But remember, you have to keep the context of the sentence in mind. Look at an example. The carton of eggs is on the counter. The subject in this sentence is the carton. There's only one carton here. Remember that a singular subject takes a singular verb, so the verb here is. A common mistake would be to think that the subject is eggs. Since the word eggs is plural, some students might think that it should take a plural verb. This is wrong. Thinking that the subject comes after the word of is incorrect. To make sure that you're seeing this, here's a practice example. Go ahead and try to complete the sentence. Should the word be is or are? The best strategy is to first identify the subject, which is the eggs. Since the word eggs is plural, the verb must take a plural form, which is are, so the sentence should read, the eggs are on the counter. I mean, the eggs in the carton are on the counter is how the sentence should read. The key point again is that the subject comes before the word of, not after, and that this rule generally holds for on, from, with, in, and for. Now, I know what you might be thinking right now. You might be worrying or panicking a little bit because you're worried that you're now going to have to memorize yet another list of words for the test. Well, if that's the case, then don't worry. We can simplify this rule down into just one key rule. When the subject and the verb are interrupted by a word or group of words, simply cross the interrupters out. So let me show you what I mean by this with another example here. So let's revisit the example, the carton of eggs blank on the counter, is or are. So what we can do here is first identify the subject and then we'll cross out everything in between the subject and the verb. So the sentence would then read, the carton is or are on the counter. Well, it's easy and very clear now to see that the carton is singular. So therefore it would need a singular verb. So we would then rewrite the sentence as the carton is on the counter, and that would be in the correct form. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's take another example here. The eggs in the carton blank is or are on the counter. So here we want to use the cross out method again. So we can cross out everything between the subject and the verb, which the blank is where the verb's going to go. So if we do that, we would get this, the eggs blank on the counter. And so we see that the word eggs is plural. So we've got a plural subject, so therefore it's going to take a plural verb. So are is the correct answer, and the correct sentence should read, the eggs are on the counter. The next key point is that when two or more subjects are connected with the word and, use a plural verb. Make sense? Alright, you're up, pop quiz. Try to fill in the blank here. When two or more subjects are connected with and, use a blank verb. Hopefully you remember from just a couple seconds ago that when two or more subjects are connected with and, you want to use a plural verb. Let's look at an example here. In this sentence, Jared and Sean blank is or are baking a birthday cake. How do we solve this one? Well, to answer, let's first determine the subject. So we see that there's two subjects, both Jared and Sean, and the subjects are joined by the word and, so therefore we want to use the plural verb. So the correct sentence should read, Jared and Sean are baking a birthday cake. Now on your test, they might also try to switch it up on you and give you a sentence like this. When blank Jared and Sean baking a birthday cake? Well, the answer here is still are. We can handle this one by, again, identifying the subjects, and we would see Jared and Sean are subjects and they're connected by the word and so therefore we would need to use the plural verb, which is are. So don't be thrown off here. They've just inverted the structure of the sentence, but it's still the same principles are going to apply. The next key is that when two or more subjects are connected by or, nor, either, or neither, the verb agrees to the subject that's closer to it. If you were just listening, this next practice question shouldn't be too hard. Go ahead and fill in the blank. When two or more subjects are connected by or, nor, either, or neither, the verb agrees with the subject that's blank to it. Yes, that's right, closer to it. Now if you got that, go ahead and give yourself an imaginary, or you can do an actual round of applause. Either way, give yourself some love. So here's an example of this. Neither Jared nor his best friend Abby blank to work each day. Does drive or drives better fill in that blank? Go ahead, you can try this out. So let's go over how to do this now. So first note that there are again two subjects here, Jared and Abby. We see that the verb is going to go in the blank beside Abby, right? Because Abby is closest to that verb that we're going to fill in. So we need to look at Abby and see that Abby is a singular subject, right? Because she's only one person. So then the correct answer is drives. So the correct sentence should read, neither Jared nor his best friend Abby drives to work each day. Another key point that's crucial to grasp for the purposes of the GED test is that you must treat collective nouns such as family, flock, herd, army, audience, etc. as singular. So here's an example. The audience blank ready for the show. Is the correct verb is or are? To get this right, what's the key point again that you need to know? That's right, you must treat collective nouns as singular. Knowing this, let's go back to that example. While audience is a group of more than one person, it's a collective noun, so we must treat it as singular. Therefore, the correct answer is, the audience is ready for the show to start. Is the correct word. So if you made it this far into the video and have yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so down below. Click subscribe and then you'll get more videos like this as soon as they're released. So also, congratulate yourself for taking massive action towards your goal of passing the GED test. With some patience and persistence, before long you'll have all of the sections of the GED test done. I have no doubt about that. Thank you so much for sticking with me, and you're definitely going to want to see my video on how to pass the GED writing section, so you'll learn everything you need to know about the essay. So just click over here, you can go to that video right now, and you'll learn how to ace that essay section. So definitely take these grammar rules and apply them and you won't lose. Thanks again.